888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com today. Requires 2 lines of service, age validation, and credit approval, subject to system and area limits, taxes, and other fees apply.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? So you've got an oil change coming up. You can go farther and save on full synthetic with our oil change special. Right now, you can get 5 quarts of Valvoline Advanced Full Synthetic with an STP Extended Life oil filter for just $35.99. Get the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Rescue, redemption, recovery, re-entry. That's what happens at the rescue mission of Salt Lake City.
My name's India.
My name is Kelly.
So I was a heroin addict.
I was living in my car.
And I decided it was time that I got help.
You don't know what to expect.
The rescue mission of Salt Lake does not accept any federal, state, or city funding. Everything is wholly supported through your generous tax-deductible contributions, along with donations of our friends and supporters.
You have a bed, you have a shower. We get everything that we need.
87% of every dollar goes to the rescue mission services. The other 13%, hard costs to run the mission building itself.
Like I have that hope now.
Thank goodness.
From the recovery program to a place to lay your head at night, and meals served every morning, afternoon, and evening all year long, as well as food boxes for families in need. The rescue mission needs our help.
Like a new life, that newfound hope.
That's what I'm grateful for.
Find out how at rescuesaltlake.org.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Andy Farnsworth.
Well, the only slow spots I'm seeing right now, a little bit of southbound delay crossing over 215, heading from Murray down into Midvale. Of course, this is where some of the rain is still coming down the hardest. Some spots have dried out a little bit. I don't see any additional delay on the freeway in Utah County or in Davis and Weber County at the moment. Prep for winter. Get a furnace inspection from a certified heating contractor to check for safety and efficiency. A reminder from Enbridge Gas. I'm Andy Farnsworth in the KSL Traffic Center.
We're getting a little break from the rain right now, but it'll be back tonight. A high of 60 degrees today. Tomorrow, it'll cool off by another about 10 degrees, and there will be some chances of a little bit of snow in some areas, especially in the morning hours. Right now, it's 53 degrees and cloudy. I'm Britt Johnson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, in an era of challenges, to say the least, misinformation, disinformation, where truth seems increasingly elusive, the battle against disinformation has become a defining challenge of our time. Journalists find themselves not only reporting the news, but actively defending the very foundation of factual discourse. And as newsrooms struggle, there's an urgent call for the public, for public participation in preserving the integrity of information. So this partnership between journalists and citizens, could that be the key? Could that be the answer to building a more resilient information ecosystem? That's what we want to get into in this segment. Tim Richardson, the former journalist and Washington Post editor who leads PEN America's journalism and disinformation program, also has a great piece in The Hill today. And Tim, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Boyd. Thanks for having me.
We all know between misinformation, disinformation, and beyond, this is becoming an increasing challenge. I love the way you frame this. Tee it up for our listeners in terms of what this partnership ought to look like between what is the role of the journalists and what's we the people got to do in the midst of all of this.
Yeah. So, we over the last few months have gone into, we spoke with about 100 newsrooms or so. We just felt like we've got this clash of, you've got generative AI happening at the same time. The most importantly, you've got the presidential election happening. And there's just so much misinformation and disinformation out there that we wanted to be able to talk with reporters about what we're seeing, talk a little bit about some of that threat landscape and share some of the research out there so everyone can kind of be on the same page and know just what the options are and what they can do and some of the concerns that they should have about potentially amplifying and in their reporting and share some of those best practices. And so, what we've learned is a lot of them are overworked. They're kind of these firewalls, serving as firewalls against some of this disinformation that's out there. And, it's no secret that the industry is hurting. And it really feels like this is a time, and what we've learned is that journalists can't do this alone. We really need the public. We really need citizens to be able to step in, jump in, do their part, and be able to kind of be part of this solution, because it's clear that we all need to be on board.
Yeah, and so let's walk through this and look at kind of both sides of the equation. Obviously, there's such great pressure on journalists today, where you pointed this out in your piece, where clicks often are more important than the substance and the polarization and all of that. We lose the nuance in so many of those things. You also noted how many reporters are feeling like it just takes forever for them to finish a story, just because they have to take all of these things all the way to ground in terms of just being able to say, hey, I can publish this with a high degree of confidence.
Exactly. And, we all, as the industry is hurting, it's unfortunate that these things are colliding at a moment when, we would all love to see more journalists in their community. We would like for community members to see journalists when they're at meetings, when they're out and about, and have journalists continue to be a very integral part of the community. But, when a journalist is chasing some sort of information online that may or may not be true, it takes a lot of time to determine whether something is true. It takes time to have those conversations of whether it's worth covering, whether worth writing about that sort of information. So that is time that a journalist could be spent covering something within their community, something of importance in their community, and yet they're kind of, back at their desk and having these conversations and trying to determine whether this information is something that is worth their attention or not. It just takes their time away from other things that are really more important.
Yeah, and as we look at this, the way that so many are getting their news these days, or getting these kinds of stories, and it's all based on the algorithms. And so, again, that adds another dimension to what a journalist has to do to get noticed, or to have things that are helping them in terms of building a brand or building a reputation of trust. And
Exactly.
So walk us through the citizens portion of the program on this, in terms of how do we change that dynamic. And I always say we should never reward bad behavior, because anyone who has a teenager knows that you just get more of it. And so how do we reward the good behavior for journalists that are doing the good things and really getting the truth?
Well, first of all, I think we really want to make sure that people kind of take a step back whenever they're encountering something on social media. Disinformers they want to elicit this reaction, whether it is positive or whether it's negative. That's how you kind of bypass this rational analysis that people might have under normal circumstances. People need to kind of take a step back, understand if this is potentially real or fake, and then before amplifying it, before hitting that share button, really just kind of think more than maybe what we have in the past. If we could not amplify some of these falsehoods that are out there, that would go a really long way in kind of stopping some of these issues. And we also have a pilot program that we're working on that's been shown early signs of being very successful, of working with trusted messengers in the community, helping regular people have conversations with their friends, with their family members who might have fallen down some sort of disinformation rabbit hole, and kind of giving them best tools and practices to kind of pull themselves, help them kind of, claw back out of that rabbit hole, if you will. And the early signs are that has been successful. We're hoping to do a lot more of that. But, it really takes all of us, whether it's journalists, whether it's community members, our efforts to kind of build trusted messengers. It really is a kind of a multi-pronged solution that we're looking at.
Yeah, one of the things that I love that you're doing at Pan America is your convening. You're bringing people together, whether it's journalists or researchers or everyday citizens. One of the things that you pointed out that I think we all need to think again about is that disinformation that we share, particularly with people that we care about, with friends, with neighbors, with loved ones, that kind of disinformation, if we're passing that along, that's like multi-levels of dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. And studies have shown that, people are more likely to believe falsehoods when they come from someone who is close to them. But, on the flip side, and the positive, is that people are more likely to if they have someone close to them who is telling them that they are believing something that is not true, that also has shown to be more successful. It's another instance of, people are, getting information from so many sources out there, but it's those people who are close to them who really have this outsized effect on helping to rein in some of potentially those falsehoods that someone might be believing, even if they're not true.
Yeah, building those credible sources and connection points. This is such an interconnected process. Give us one last thing before I let you go, Tim. Something that we should be thinking different or doing different today to recognize our part in all of this and to get us on that better path.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to when you're, if you're scrolling through TikTok or scrolling on X or checking Facebook, and there are so many falsehoods out there, so many memes that have been created in many cases with generative AI that in some cases you might realize that they're fake, but it's that sort of narrative that begins to take place when someone is repeatedly exposed to this sort of content. And I guess my guidance would just be to kind of take a step back, and even if you might chuckle at something that you see, maybe it's mildly amusing, but I would just caution people not to share that sort of content. It really, it has this outsized effect on our democracy. At the end, my biggest concern is that we all kind of lose faith in everything, and determining what is real and what's not, whether it's media, whether it's our institutions. It makes people less likely to want to be involved in civic society, and in the end, there's no good end to this if we all are kind of losing faith and not being able to kind of coalesce around the shared values and shared information.
Yeah, I'm so glad that's where you landed. We often say that we've stress tested this nation under world wars and pandemics and economic collapse, but we've never really stress tested it in the absence of trust, not just in institutions, but that trust in each other. And I think what you're doing at Pan America is helping to reconnect that and make sure that that muscle doesn't atrophy, that we have that trust not only with media, not only with institutions, but with each other. And it's up to all of us to be part of that and to move that forward. Tim Richardson, former journalist and Washington Post editor. He leads Pan America's Journalism and Disinformation program. You should check that out today, and also check out his piece at thehill.com. Tim, thanks so much for joining us today. Great perspective.
Thanks a lot for having me.
All right, that's Tim Richardson again joining us from Pan America. You can check that out as well. And an important conversation. We all have a role to play in this if we're going to really battle misinformation and deliberate disinformation, especially in the run-up to the election. But it's not only that. It's what comes beyond and what comes next. We have to be part of the solution together in all of that. We'll step aside for a quick break. More Inside Sources coming up next.
For over 22 years, speaking on business on KSL News Radio has been a beloved tradition, celebrating our heroic business leaders and Utah consumers who have helped build one of the strongest state economies in the nation. Now, under the stewardship of the Salt Lake Chamber and hosted by Chamber President and CEO Derek Miller, the program continues to shine a spotlight on those who make Utah's business environment dynamic and thriving. With his expertise and passion, Derek brings the stories of our business community to life. As part of the Salt Lake Chamber, Speaking on Business is proud to continue its legacy of highlighting inspiring stories, trends, and special guests. Support Utah businesses now and be part of Utah's thriving economy. More information can be found at slchamber.com. That's slchamber.com.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit kslnewsradio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
This statement has not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
When it comes to my lifestyle and diet, I don't always make the smartest choices.
Touchdown! Woo! Hey, how about another round and some more chips?
But when it comes to taking care of my liver, I do make one very smart choice. Active liver tablets from New Nordic. I used to have real issues with my liver. And at my last checkup, my doc was concerned about my numbers. But since adding a once-a-day active liver tablet, my gut's better, I feel great, and my doctor's happy. I ask a lot of my liver, so the least I can do to say thanks is a daily dose of Active Liver.
You ask a lot of your liver, so give it the support it needs with Active Liver. You can find Active Liver at Amazon.com, or for a volume discount, visit NewNordicUSA.com. Go to new, NORDICUSA.com, Amazon, or ask for Active Liver at your local CVS. New year, new you. New Nordic.
My name is Brian King, and I'm running to be your governor because Utah is headed in the wrong direction, and we can do so much better. If you're frustrated by politics today, if you feel like politicians aren't listening to you, if you're looking for something different, for a leader who prioritizes common sense and bipartisanship, you have a place with us in this campaign. Join us and vote for Brian King for governor by November 5th. For the better.
Paid for by Brian for Utah.
Tim and Amanda.
One of the things I love about radio is that we are all hearing it at the same time. One of the differences between that and just scrolling on your phone is that I don't know when that story was posted. Maybe an hour ago, maybe 3 days ago.
To your point about who wrote it, where did it come from, and is it dated information, our hope every day is that we can provide a more broad spectrum of information on a single topic that you can then take and make decisions on your own.
Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Britt Johnson. First, there are fears that wildfires will take off in the wind as this season's first round of dangerous Santa Ana winds move into Southern California. Second, anyone heading out for fall break activities should be prepared for some wet roads, especially as temperatures drop tonight and possible snow flurries will mix with the rain. Third, Utah Highway Patrol was busy this morning with the storm. By noon, they had already responded to 62 crashes statewide. Right now, it's 52 degrees and cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
One of the most polarizing issues in American politics today is immigration. The rhetoric around migrants and immigration, the border, it's toxic. The attention is focused on who can use this as a wedge for political purposes, who can raise the most campaign cash off of it, who can use it in an ad against an opponent, whether that's in a Republican primary, a Democratic primary, or a general election. And rather than debate and solve the problem, all we have is this rhetoric. Everyone seems more interested in scoring the political point than they are solving the policy problem. Always a great day for us when we have Fiona Harrigan joining us on the show. She is the associate editor at Reason. She primarily covers immigration and foreign policy. Has a fantastic piece. You need to go read this. If you've ever hit your forehead saying, why can we not just solve the immigration problem? This is going to help you understand how we got where we are. And Fiona, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's dive into this. I love where you started your piece at Reason.com today because it goes back to 1982, Republican primary for the presidential. Just walk us through that because I think it's so instructive.
It's a really enlightening illustration, right? It's really, really interesting in how different it is from the situation we see today politically. It's this forum in April 1980, and it's Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush talking about illegal immigration. And they were talking in Texas, right? Super relevant to that crowd. And a questioner asks whether the children of illegal immigrants should be allowed to attend Texas public schools. That's where he starts his question. And the two candidates come at this in a really, really interesting way. Bush has this really cool quote where he says, we are creating a whole society of honorable, decent, family-loving people in violation of the law. And Reagan suggests working out some kind of agreement to help these people come out of the shadows, right, to work and to pay taxes in the U.S. and to cross the border and essentially be welcome out of the shadows. So, you know, comparing that to the way that the debate is framed now, not just in the Republican Party, but even in the Democratic Party increasingly, about how border politics is so toxic, it's so humanized back then, and it's really different from how people talk about immigration and the border today.
Yeah, I just love. Well, I always love a good historical reference, but this one was just so classic. Like no one could say that on either a Democratic primary or a Republican primary, but it makes so much sense. Of hey, what if we just had a way to know who comes in and who goes out, and have a door that swings both ways, and you could make all of this work. It's just so indicative in terms of where we've gone in terms of just the rhetoric of it all. I'm still one of those that believe we could actually solve probably 94% of this problem in an afternoon on the floor of the House and the Senate, because it seems like everyone agrees, but no one wants to admit they agree because it might not be helpful to them politically.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of why I started this article with this grounding anecdote, right? Because I think it's one thing to recognize and to observe that there are serious problems with border and immigration policy. I think that's pretty undeniable, right? Whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, a moderate, a conservative, a liberal, whatever. But the much more interesting question is why immigration policy and the border are so notably bad now. And I think a lot of people would agree that those areas are much worse now than maybe they were, or, maybe worse isn't the right word, but more filled with disorder and more difficult to manage. And the interesting question is, why is that the case now? But it's not something that people are necessarily interested in exploring. And that's why I thought it was so important to kind of go through the history of how these tools have developed and why migration patterns are so different now.
Yeah, and so as you look at all of that, and you always help us unpack all the proposals and the things that could actually work to actually make a difference in all of this, you pointed out in your piece that the first thing we have to just acknowledge is that the things that we're using, the tools, were for a completely different era, as you said, a different migration pattern than we see today. So kind of frame that for us to help us figure out, well, what is the conversation we should be getting to?
Right. So there are these three main factors that explain, in my view, why border policy is so unproductive now, and why that's kind of enabled this debate to become so unproductive in turn. Changing migration patterns are the grounding of that, and this comes from a Migration Policy Institute paper, which is really, really good, and it outlines these two periods of border enforcement, right, and movement patterns in those two periods. So from 1980 to about 2014, it was mostly a question of single young men from Mexico coming alone for economic reasons, trying to avoid detection in order to work and better their economic circumstances. But from 2014 onward, it became much more of a question of humanitarian situations, right? People came with more complex claims for protection. We saw more unaccompanied minors and family units, those sorts of things, right? It's one thing to deport somebody right over the border back into Mexico and not have to worry about the legal situation that they might be claiming. When you have these families coming from far-flung places and filing asylum claims, that's much more complicated, and it takes much more time and resources. So that's the first one. And then there are also these outdated policy tools. So our policy tools are still grounded in that first era, but they're trying to address the second era, and they simply can't, right? An enforcement forward and deterrent forward approach is just ineffective for that second group. And the last thing that I kind of identify as a factor is growing presidential power. And as Congress has kind of taken a back seat and formulating better policies and reforming the immigration system, it's been much more on the president to address these issues. Congress has been kind of complicit in that, right? They have cover for not doing their jobs and not fixing these problems. But then these presidents are increasingly seen as figureheads and as kind of the rulers, right? Rule by fiat people on the border, and that's just ineffective too, right? We've seen that time and time again. So these are kind of the factors at play.
Yeah, and so important to recognize all of those as Congress continues to abdicate its authority. The executive branch is going to take that. They're doing things by executive order, as you said, or by fiat. And that never ends well. It either ends up in the court or it just gets undone by the next administration as it goes back and forth. And give us just in our last minute here, Fiona, the other thing that you noted in your piece is just how the border and immigration, the system has really just become this dumping ground, like just point fingers, place blame, shrug your shoulders, not my job, it's somebody else's fault. it seems to be the receptacle now for anything that's going wrong has to have something to do with the president who's in charge of the border.
Exactly. And I think that's why there is this temptation to find an easy solution and to think that it has to be all about enforcement, all about whether it's building a wall or whether it's adding more agents to the border. It's not all about that, but people want it to be as simple as that answer because the border does involve so many things now, right? It's a question of national security. It's a question of economic security for a lot of people, of drug policy. And it's been really unfortunate to see all of those extremely complex issues shoehorned into yet another complex issue in such a way that people think it can be solved with, an index card's worth of policy proposals. And it's unfortunate. And I think the two major parties feed into one another in thinking that it can be that simple.
Yeah.
So it's
I have a whole lot of index
paralyzed.
cards I'd love to ship back to them, but we'll save that for another day. I do want to have you back, Fiona, because I do want to get into this whole area of, gangs of 8 and different bipartisan bills that have started but not quite made it. You also made some really important points in terms of the fact that this is expanding beyond just a Mexico or Northern Triangle problem, and we'll save that for our next conversation because I think that's also one that we're not talking nearly enough about. Fiona, as always appreciate your insight on this. Fiona Harrigan, Associate Editor at Reason. Check out her piece at reason.com. And again, Fiona, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I always have fun.
That's my conversation with Fiona Harrigan. And this is one of those issues that I'm still convinced. I am still convinced, folks. I think we could solve 94.5% of the immigration issues in a single afternoon on the floor of the House and the Senate. Everybody agrees. Everyone agrees. We need to have a border. We need to have an entry-exit system. We need to be able to tell who comes in and who goes out. We need to be able to deal with complex situations, as Fiona was pointing out. And we can do all of that. I often joke that, if Disneyland can tell me where my family is at any moment of time in the park through a 3-day period, surely the greatest country on earth can figure out who's coming in and who's going out and why. There's so many things that can be done, and it's bipartisan, but it's the political will. It's the political will. And as we've been talking a lot about over the past week, it's a leadership issue. It's not an immigration issue. It's not a border issue. It's a leadership issue. Who's going to lead? That's the question. All right, that wraps up hour number 1 of Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. We are going to step aside for some top-of-the-hour news. Don't go anywhere. We got a big hour number 2 coming up next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Britt Johnson. KSL's top story this hour, Utah Highway Patrol was busy this morning with the storm. By noon, they'd already responded to 62 crashes statewide. Today's rain and cooler temperatures might prompt a sudden burst of fall in the valley locations. That's according to KSL Greenhouse co-host and USU horticulturist Ton Bettis. He recently looked for colors in the canyons, but like many others, he was disappointed.
And the trees had either already dropped their leaves or were fairly muted, and I suspect it was because of the warm temperatures and lack of rain.
Bettis says if you go to the canyons to see the colors, look for trees in the lower elevations and along riverbanks. He says it's odd that trees in the valleys are still green, but he expects that to change soon. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Authorities from the U.S. and Canada say they have dismantled a drug trafficking operation run by a one-time Olympic athlete. ABC's Alex Stone reports from Los Angeles.
Ryan Wedding was once a snowboarder who competed in the Olympics for Canada. Now he's accused of running a drug trafficking organization that's been moving 60 tons of cocaine a year from Colombia into the U.S. and Canada. U.S. Attorney Martina Estrada says Wedding and his underlings
made a lot of money through this cocaine trafficking, billions of dollars.
Wedding is on the run. Others have been arrested. They're also accused of ordering execution-style murders of anyone they thought was blocking their drug shipments. Alex Stone, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Your money at this moment, the Dow in the green, 161 points, but the S&P has dropped in the red 1 point. The NASDAQ is up 6. Coming up, possible snow on the way. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 2:01.
for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
At Macy's, we're proud to be local and support local. Carrying local products and produce is important to us. We are proud to support our local growers and bring peak freshness to you and your family. To make shopping local easier for you, we have added Utah Proud tags beneath local products. As you shop our stores, look out for the tags as you shop and show your pride for local Utah companies and growers. Thank you for shopping local yourself by shopping at Macy's. Macy's, happy shopping!
If you need a new roof, there's a reason IWC Roofing is the #1 residential roofing contractor in Utah. IWC has been replacing roofs for 27 years. They are professionals. You don't get some janky subcontractor fiddling around up there. You get experienced IWC employees on your roof, and they finish most jobs in a single day. They're in, they're out, and they power wash your driveway just to say thank you. Now you're wondering about the price. After all, IWC is one of the few Owens Corning Platinum certified contractors in the entire state, but they offer value pricing, and right now, take advantage of their fall special. $2,000 off your quote. And of course, they'll work with you on financing, so call IWC Roofing, the highest rated roofing contractor in Utah, plus $2,000 off. Right now, call IWC Roofing, 801-232-5690. That's 801-232-5690, or go to IWCRoofingUtah.com.
It's official. KSL Sports is your official radio home of the Utah Hockey Club. When the puck hits the ice this fall, you'll hear every goal, every check, and every tension-filled moment on the KSL Sports Zone. Plus, let your voice be heard on the Utah Hockey Club Fan Forum on KSLSports.com, your exclusive home of the NHL and the Utah Hockey Club in Utah is KSL Sports and 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I'm Brian Tedesco, CEO of Blaupunkt Americas, the pioneers of the car stereo. Today, we're not just about sound systems. We are revolutionizing the e-bike scene with Blue Dot Bike. Thanks to AmericanEagle.com, our online presence now features a dynamic e-commerce website that showcases the quality and affordability of our foldable e-bikes. And our collegiate e-bikes, just perfect for the college fanatic. These e-bikes offer a new way to experience freedom on two wheels, no matter your age. When we needed a top-notch website to match our cutting-edge e-bikes, we turned to AmericanEagle.com. They made the impossible seem easy, tackling digital challenges like pros. Check out the Blue Dot Bike website to see AmericanEagle.com's amazing work in action. Need the best in website and digital marketing solutions? AmericanEagle.com is your go-to. They've been a game changer for us, and they can be for you too. Visit AmericanEagle.com or call 877-WEB-NOW-1. That's 877-WEB-NOW-1.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Andy Farnsworth.
Well, traffic is a little bit slow still on South 15. Some backups crossing 215 down into Midvale. They cleared a crash from the 201 5600 West exit. Still looking at some delays on Bangular near 21st South. Not much, though, on the freeways other than that. In fact, up north, it looks like things have dried out quite a bit. It seems to be only the Salt Lake Valley that's dealing with the most wet road conditions. Attention, commercial property managers and business owners. Snow doesn't have to be doesn't have a campaign manager, but you do. Choose Go Pave Utah to clear your lot and win the winter. GoPaveUtah.com. I'm Andy Farnsworth in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, temperatures will drop and the rain will come back overnight. It could turn into a little bit of a rainy snow mix early tomorrow morning. Right now it's 54 degrees and cloudy. I'm Britt Johnson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
As America approaches its 250th anniversary in 2026, America is struggling to define its identity and purpose due to how we understand our past and, more importantly, how we envision the future. What was once a straightforward celebration of national pride has evolved into a complex dialogue about inclusion, historical truth, and competing visions of what patriotism actually is. So it's time to think again about what we think we know about this thing we call the semi-quincentennial. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, as we look at this celebration, 250th anniversary of our nation in 2026, of course, we want to make sure this is something that is a meaningful commemoration and celebration, but we're also getting to the things that we should focus on in terms of emulation, in terms of what we want to do moving forward. And it has led many to question if we're in a bit of an identity crisis as a nation. Beverly Gage is professor of 20th century U.S. history at Yale University. Her course focuses on American politics, government, and social movements. And Professor, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much.
Fantastic piece in The Atlantic talking about this identity crisis. And as you look forward to 2026, what are the things that you're looking at that says, hey, maybe we don't really know who we are anymore? What should we be thinking about?
Well, there were a couple of reasons that I wrote the essay. One is that I think most people don't know this is coming, right? And we're actually getting pretty close to 2026, and I wanted to kind of call the question there.
Yes.
But, the big question of that piece is how do you have a national celebration in a country that's so divided, and also who's going to define it? Who's going to control it when it comes?
Yeah, and so and I'm glad you called the question. We try to do that every day on the show. This is an important question to call, I think. And as we are in this divided nation, obviously in the midst of a presidential election to boot, but what are some of the things that you hope from? You have a really unique perch in what you focus on day to day. What do you think we ought to be focusing on as we try to craft not only what that celebration looks like, but kind of the punch through of what comes after that celebration?
Yeah, well, that's really where we're heading, right? Because we can look to the past and have arguments about it, but of course the past helps to define the future. I guess a few things stood out to me about our own moment. One is how much smaller scale it looks like this celebration might be, right? I mean, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, you would have these kind of big World's Fair type celebrations. And people, I think, for good reason and bad, seem a little bit nervous about doing something on that scale. And that's just striking about a commentary on our own times and our ability to think big. And then in the past, I think there was just a lot of really creative engagement with American symbols and American founding documents from people all over the political spectrum. And one thing that's been of some concern to me is that it seems like a lot of the founding era has gotten kind of one political label, that the right or the Republicans seem to like it a lot more than the Democrats, and we can talk about why. But I still think there's a lot of kind of creativity in that founding moment that doesn't actually belong to any one constituency.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as we approach it as we would say, it should be a warts and all, but not just warts and not just all awesome. There's a lot of things in between in the nuance that are lessons that, as you said, are not owned by any political party or any point on the political spectrum, but they really do belong to we the people, and all are instructive. And I think that's one of the things that I would hope we would celebrate in all of this. I think going back, if we go all the way back to Constitution, and I always refer to Washington's letter that accompanied the document as they submitted that to Congress, and that was that the magic of Philadelphia, the secret sauce, was this amity, this friendship, mutual deference, that respecting the dignity across our differences, and then being willing to compromise. That those were the real secret components, and if you have that as a baseline, you can talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly in a little different way.
That's absolutely right. And I think, you can find in the founding generation, obviously a set of commitments to human equality that were not realized in any full sense that we would recognize at the time, but that were important commitments. There was a lot of thinking through in that generation about how you create a social order that's going to be stable, right? That's going to avoid things like excessive factionalization, that's going to avoid having demagogues taking over the country. And then I think there are, just a set of really interesting and compelling things to say about the ways that Americans since that moment have then adopted that language, those symbols. One of my famous and favorite examples of kind of creative appropriation is the abolitionists in the 1830s inventing the Liberty Bell as a really meaningful symbol, looking back to this earlier generation, taking what they wanted out of it and recrafting a narrative and a symbol that really meant something to their own time.
Yeah, I also loved in your piece in The Atlantic that you pointed to those founding principles. Again, not the political parties, not even the politicians themselves, but those founding principles. Interesting, an RMG research study that came out had a stunning number that 88% of Americans think that the founding principles, things like freedom and liberty and self-governance, are things worth celebrating and defending. 92% said that would be a good place to start for leaders to reunite the nation around some of these common things. And you can't get the 92% of the country to agree on much these days, but it seems that those founding principles might not be a bad place to start.
That seems right. And I'm writing a book right now in which I've spent a lot of time traveling the country, going to different historic sites, and really trying to ask that question, is there something that Americans see in their past that they understand as something that they still have in common, even in our age of division over so many issues? And I think that you're right, that there is still a kind of faith in a common American story. Now, a lot of people roll their eyes or have questions about it or see it as, flawed and limited. But I think even then there is a level of kind of faith and engagement that makes the basis for a conversation.
Great perspective. This is a great piece. You can check this out at Politico.com. I'm looking forward to your book as well, Professor. We'll have you back when that rolls around. Professor Beverly Gage, Professor of 20th Century U.S. History at Yale University. And Professor, this is really important perspective. And while it seems like 2026 is light years away, it'll be here before we know it. But there's some important conversations we've got to get to that are based in the very concepts and principles that you laid out in this powerful piece in The Atlantic. Thanks so much for joining us today. Great stuff.
Thanks for having me.
All right. That's Professor Beverly Gage joining us from Yale University. And, when we get to the 250th celebration, of course, there'll be a tongue twister contest to see who can pronounce semi-quincentennial. But it's just 250 years. That'll be in 2026. The commission will have a tall task to put together what that actually looks like. But it's a beautiful opportunity for us to think again about what we think we know when it comes to this amazing experiment that we call America. That within the parentheses of a crazy idea and some principles that still ring true today, there are things that unite us as a nation, that we don't have to be caught up in the factionalism and the polarization, that we can do this different. And the best way to do it is to go back to the principles that united and forged the nation to begin with. And they're the very principles that will keep and preserve us a nation moving forward. And so, yes, we can have honest, open conversations about the times in our country when we have failed to live up to the principles we profess to believe. We need to have that conversation. And we need to make sure that we're continuing to get to the principles that will help us keep our eye on the prize of what we want this nation to be. Because it's we the people and what we decide to do together. That unity is not just a slogan, that unity is an imperative in the nation. And it should be a shared project amongst we the people. And I think the 250th anniversary is a wonderful time to have that conversation. And I think we actually should begin it right now. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. it's gonna be 80 forever. Fall is finally here. Listen this week as we track our first bout of chilly weather. Get a reliable KSL forecast every 10 minutes on the 9s, mornings and afternoons on KSL News Radio.
Winter is coming, but there's still time to replace those drafty old windows before the cold comes and drives up your heating bill. Just make one call and take advantage of the Advanced Window Products Fall Special. $2,500 off on 10 windows or more, and that's $2,500 off their already low factory direct prices because at Advanced Window Products, they're the factory. Your windows are built in their facility right here in Salt Lake City. You're buying local, and with their lifetime guarantee, you don't ever have to call some faraway state for help. Advanced Window Products is right here, proudly backing up their work. So make one call, save on your heating bill, and get a rebate from the energy companies. Advanced Window Products offers 0% financing. They can even give you amazing new windows with no money down. And don't forget, $2,500 off their factory direct prices, but you have to call now. Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Your business needs a network it can count on.
Power's out.
Comcast Business has you covered with Wi-Fi backup to help keep your business up and running, even when your power goes out.
Everybody in the warehouse good?
Lights are out, but the Wi-Fi's up. Let's power on.
It's from the company with 99.9% network reliability.
Break room, you good?
Can't microwave my burrito, but Wi-Fi's fine. Let's power on.
Power on with the leader in connectivity, Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Keep your business connected with Comcast Business Internet and Wi-Fi backup. Or get started with reliable internet and advanced security for $49.99 a month for 12 months with a 2-year contract. Plus, ask how to get up to a $500 prepaid card with a qualifying internet package. Don't wait. Call or go online today. Ends 11/17/24. Restrictions apply. New customers only with 150 megabit per second internet and security edge. EcoBill and autopay required. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra and subject to change.
Not sure how much you know about Progressive Insurance. You may know us for insuring your home and auto. You may know a couple of our commercials. But what you may not know is that since 2013, Progressive has been honoring veterans with vehicle donations through the annual Keys to Progress Veteran Vehicle Giveaway Program, giving back to those who gave so much. Now, you probably didn't wake up today saying, I really wish I knew more about Progressive Insurance, but this seemed like the type of thing people wouldn't mind hearing about. Find out more about how we're dedicated to our customers and communities at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Want to keep your gas-powered engines running like new? Stable's proprietary formulas are proven by third-party testing to outperform the competition in keeping fuel fresh, preventing corrosion, and cleaning the entire fuel system. With Stable, you can have confidence you are doing the right thing for your engine's long-term health. Just pour into your gas can or fuel tank, then top off with fresh fuel. At every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable. Available where fuel additives are sold.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Britt Johnson. First, Utah Highway Patrol was busy this morning with the storm. By noon, they'd already responded to 62 crashes statewide. Second, today's rain and cooler temperatures might prompt a sudden burst of fall colors in the valley. Third, authorities from the U.S. and Canada say they've dismantled a drug trafficking operation run by one-time Olympic athlete. Right now it's 54 degrees and cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson. You know, parenting has always been challenging. I think it's increasingly challenging in the modern world. And yet it continues to be one of the most rewarding roles that people have in their lives. And most parents, I think, when tackling the challenges of day-to-day life, they just want some sort of sign, just kind of some sort of signal that they're doing okay, that they're doing a good job. And it's interesting. There's actually a branch of philosophy that every parent should know about. This is one of the reasons we do this show. My eye was caught this morning by a piece in The Atlantic that's actually called The Branch of Philosophy All Parents Should Know. It's by Alyssa Strauss, author of When You Care, the unexpected magic of caring for others. And I was just totally engrossed in this during the morning, and said to our producer Shane, "We got to get this. We got to get this on air today. We've got to track down Alyssa and get her in." And Alyssa joins us on the line. And thanks so much for jumping on with us today.
Be here. Thank you.
So give us kind of the baseline for our listeners who didn't wake up this morning thinking about philosophy or care ethics today. Give us the baseline.
Yeah, so care ethics started in really the late 70s, early 80s with the work of a psychologist named Carol Gilligan, who was doing psychological research on morality and realized that a lot of the men in her field were rating men or boys even, more moral than girls. And one of the reasons is because they have a more relational sense of what's right and wrong, that their sense of right and wrong was more informed by what would actually work for this one human right in front of me, and not some objective sense of like, I'm, of being virtuous or good. So, quick example, maybe I don't believe in lying. I believe I'm an honest person, and that's an important, value of mine. But maybe sometimes in you're caring for a kid, and a little white lie actually can help give really good care to that kid. Maybe the kid had a long day of bullying, and they just need a little more help on their homework that night. And you don't usually help them with their homework to that extent. And that's an example of kind of a relational ethic. And so it started there actually with psychological work, and it took off into its own field of philosophy that really dives into relationships, and relationships are one person depends on another, and thinking through like, what does it mean to do that well?
Yeah. Oh, and I love that whole center in terms of the dependencies. We often think of caregivers, the parent giving care to the child, but it's actually both roles matter and have meaning. And walk us through that.
Yeah, so, I think for a long time, we kind of saw parents as like the fixed part of an equation, and the kid was the variable, right? That, we create a scene for our children to grow and flourish and become who they are. But what I certainly noticed when I became a parent, it was that I was also the variable. Parenting is hard for so many practical reasons, and it's also hard for structural reasons, and particularly, the way our society is structured today, the lack of support for parents. But another reason parenting is hard, because it's genuinely deep, rich, intellectual, spiritual, and philosophical work. And in my 20s, I did all those things that you're supposed to do to, seek epiphany, like meditation retreats and long, hikes up mountains and backpacking. I tried psychedelics once, don't tell my mom. And, I have to say, nothing woke me up to life, like being a parent, like raising these two unique kids, Augie and Levi, who make me see myself in a clear way I've ever seen in the clearest way I've ever seen myself, and make me see the world in a whole new way.
Oh, I love that. I love the way you put it in your piece. You talked about putting care at the center of your moral accounting, that you started to consider it clear and obvious part of a rich, meaningful existence. And again, I think we've kind of isolated parenting to a list of tasks, and as you said, the parent being the unmovable, unchangeable. But kind of get us to how do we start to think about this relationship and this caregiving in a little different way?
Yeah, so, I think about how I got here personally, and how, I went during college, I took economics 101, philosophy 101, intro to religion 101, and then I took, I studied English literature, great novels, and I also took women's studies courses. And really, I never saw deep attention paid to the real work, the intellectual, emotional, and spiritual work of parenting and caregiving paid attention to, with the exception of women's studies, where really it focused on the burden part of it, which is very real, and how to alleviate the burden. But I just had not seen, this deep curiosity for what it's like to care for another person anywhere in our culture. And it really took me becoming a mom to wake up to this. And you know, around the time I was becoming a mom, I was writing a lot about these issues from a policy perspective and feeling really angry all the time. Why don't we have paid leave? You know, why is childcare feel so impossibly expensive for so many families? And the various other issues that make parenting harder than it needs to be today. And I was so angry at the world for not valuing care. And then I had a moment where I was like, you know what? I didn't really value care because I did not see it in all its fullness and richness. You know, it's not the fairy tale, as women in particular have long been told. It's not the nightmare, which is some of the messages we get on Instagram these days of, you know, it's this big, messy, rich middle. And it's this place I think that we have to open our eyes to as a culture if we're ever going to really value parenting and caregiving in our own lives and truly support caregivers and parents.
Yeah, it is messy. It's not for wimps. And there's so much in there. And one of the things I love that you pointed out that I'm still thinking about since I read it this morning, and that is this idea of vulnerability and that courageous vulnerability that we have to have. And it leads to that delicate dance that you talked about in terms of what caregiving actually is. Describe that for us.
I love courageous vulnerability, by the way. I want to make it clear that's not my phrase, it's yours, and I love it, and thank you for it. Right, so I think that a lot of times when we think of, you know, philosophers, we think of basically a bunch of men sitting around a table, you know, deciding what's a good life and what does it mean to be a good person. And when we get into care, like relationships are messy. You know, when you're actually in it and you're trying to execute these principles in a relationship between two people, and particularly in a care relationship where one person's dependent on the other, things get real messy fast. We're just two human beings trying to find our way in this world, and we all know how hard that is. And in order to care well, you really have to get away from what we might think of as the father's knows best approach to caring. You know, of course, we do need to be there, particularly in parenting, to guide our kids and help them live up to their capabilities and find their own way. But to do that well, we have to be listening and receiving. We have to be asking ourselves questions. We have to be asking them questions. And to do that well, there has to be a piece of us that honors the not knowingness of it all. Like we don't have a clear path. There is truly no manual with parenting. And it's a path that you really make by walking alongside that person you're caring for.
So powerful. And we've just scratched the surface because there's this whole other area of caring, and whether that's for a sick spouse or an elderly parent or a neighbor or whatever it may be, there's so many aspects that this touches in such a rich way. I encourage you to check this out in The Atlantic today. You can check it out at theatlantic.com. And then also check out Alyssa's book. It's called When You Care, The Unexpected Magic of Caring for Others. It is rich. It is deep. It'll cause you to think again about what you think you know when it comes to caregiving, to parenting, and all the things that we do together as fellow travelers here on planet Earth. And Alyssa, thanks so much for joining us today. Fabulous conversation. We look forward to having you back.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Take care.
That's Alyssa Strauss,
Take care. Yeah.
joining us, author of When You Care, The Unexpected Magic of Caring for Others. Check out her piece at theatlantic.com. We'll step aside for some bottom of the hour news. More Inside Sources coming up next.
KSL's top story this hour. Layton police are looking for a van involved in a hit-and-run accident involving a pedestrian. They say at 8 o'clock last night, a 41-year-old was killed after he was hit trying to cross Main Street near 1100 North. The driver of the white cargo van didn't stop. They say the van likely has substantial damage on the front of the car. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. About 100 U.S. troops are being deployed to Israel as part of an advanced anti-missile defense system. The Biden administration sending the troops after Iran's massive missile barrage just 2 weeks ago. The Iranian-backed Hezbollah successfully pierced Israel's air defenses in an attack on an Israeli army base deep inside Israel.
Troops have begun to arrive in Israel, and the components have begun to arrive in Israel. It's going to be fully operations capable in the near future.
That was Major General Pat Ryder at today's Pentagon briefing. He said the U.S. troops are getting set up for Israeli air defense. your money at this moment. The Dow has gained 161 points, but the S&P is down just 1. The NASDAQ up 6 points. Coming up, we'll update you on the other half of this storm. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
The Management Minute is a service of the MBA program in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University. I'm Professor Scott Hammond. I was riding the squeaking, moving sidewalk at the airport while the airlines were making announcements. A couple was having a loud conversation next to me, and the mayor was doing her Welcome to Salt Lake promo. Somewhere, someone was playing elevator music. Most of the passengers, as I did, had noise-canceling earphones to block the overdose of audible messages, reduce our stress, and retain our sanity. Not unlike today's workplace, too many important messages stacked on each other makes noise. They say silence is golden, but research shows it also leads to less stress and greater productivity. Good leaders create noise-free work environments where people can digest information and then move on. Learn more about how leaders create optimal work environments in an MBA program at Utah State University. Go to utahstatemba.com. That's utahstatemba.com. I'm Scott Hammond. Hope to see you in one of our classes.
For over 22 years, speaking on business on KSL News Radio has been a beloved tradition, celebrating our heroic business leaders and Utah consumers who have helped build one of the strongest state economies in the nation. Now, under the stewardship of the Salt Lake Chamber and hosted by Chamber President and CEO Derek Miller, the program continues to shine a spotlight on those who make Utah's business environment dynamic and thriving. With his expertise and passion, Derek brings the stories of our business community to life. As part of the Salt Lake Chamber, Speaking on Business is proud to continue its legacy of highlighting inspiring stories, trends, and special guests. Support Utah businesses now and be part of Utah's thriving economy. More information can be found at slchamber.com. That's slchamber.com.
Utah, the absolute best pricing of the year is happening right now at Paris RV. We're blowing out all remaining 2024 inventory. Save on the Heartland Prowler Lynx 17 BHX bunkhouse, only $14,995 or $171 per month. Or the Forest River Rockwood Freedom Series 1640 LTD, only $9,995 or $113 per month. Got toys? Hook up to the Forest River Vengeance Rogue SUT 23 SUT, only $33,995 or $345 a month.
The show may be over, but the deals are still on at Paris RV.
Paris RV is your locally owned, family-run RV dealership. We strive hard to find the very best RVs for the price. With 4 locations, over 1,000 RVs in stock, 42 service bays, and 4 super parts stores. We're sure to help take your family on the best RV vacation. Check out our perfect family bunkhouse trailer, the 26BH, that sleeps 9 for $19,995 or $227 a month. Zero down. Life is short. Enjoy it. North Murray, South Murray, Payson, and Pocatello. ParisRV.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Andy Farnsworth.
Got a crash in Parley's Canyon, eastbound I-80, just before the summit. Actually, it looks like it's right after the Lambs Canyon exit, going up the hill towards the summit. Everybody moving to the left to get by. Only about a quarter mile to a half mile of slowing behind it. Could be worse, and we've seen it get a lot worse than that. The biggest delay in Salt Lake County is on South 15, and that's going from 215 down towards 90th South. Looks like we may have maybe a crash just before the 90th exit, right where 215 merges up. On the west side of the valley, Bangerter, Mountain View, our other city streets. Actually, some of these are actually drying out. UACPA supports certified public accountants in Utah through ongoing professional education and leadership development. Find a CPA that works for you, uacpa.org. I'm Andy Farnsworth in the KSL Traffic Center.
A lot of areas are getting a little break from the rain, but the rain will be back later tonight. The high today, 60 degrees. And what's also coming overnight is another drop in temperature, so we might even see some snow mixed in those early morning hours. Right now, it's 55 degrees and cloudy. I'm Britt Johnson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, if you've been listening to the show, you've probably heard me talk a time or two about an extraordinary organization called One Kind Act Today, or thepowerofkind.org. It's an organization with a mission to help us change the world by each of us just committing to one kind act per day. Pretty simple. Today, we want to highlight an organization that is doing just that to make a real difference, not just here in the state of Utah, but beyond. And as always, we're grateful to have back on the program Curtis Bennett, who's the executive director of One Kind Act Today, and really thrilled to have joining us on the program today Corey Moore, the chief executive officer of Big D Companies, one of the largest groups of contractors in the United States, over 1,500 employees in a dozen offices from Minnesota to California. And Corey is most extraordinary, and I think one of the things I love most about Corey is he is a lifelong learner, forever radically curious, and a reader, and we value that above a lot of other things on this program. And gentlemen, welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Good to be here. Thank you, sir. Honored.
Wonderful. Corey, let's start with you. We've been talking to Curtis a lot as this initiative and this movement of One Kind Act Today has been rolling out. And give us a sense of, first, why is Big D really engaging and embracing this? And then let's talk about some of the things that you're actually doing to make this part of a movement within Big D.
Yeah, thank you. Well, when Curtis first told me about One Kind Act Today, I just thought it was the right thing for the world today. And he said, well, we're going to certify businesses. And I immediately raised my hand and said, we need to be one of those. Construction is a industry in which you're working in teams all the time. You're working with new teams. You're working with subcontractors and architects and owners and with each other in sometimes middle of nowhere locations. And so, and on a hard, complex project. So being kind, I felt like, was this beautiful way to engage our people and to foster a even stronger culture than we have. And so we've been partnering with One Kind Act Today for some time, and we've reminded people via our meeting, all of our meetings. We've added stickers to our hard hats. We've put signs on our sites. We've put stickers on our trucks, just trying to make sure that One Kind Act Today is top of mind. You know, what you think about, you bring about. And so we're reminding them on weekly emails and in our town halls just to be kind and to spread One Kind Act Today.
I love that. And it is all about something I know you're passionate about, Corey, and that is creating that right kind of culture. Culture does eat strategy for breakfast, and I think it's part of the Big D way to have that kind of culture. And Curtis, let me shift over to you for a minute in terms of your outreach to our community and to our business leaders with One Kind Act Today. Give us a sense of your interaction with Big D, and then looking ahead, what comes next.
So Corey's absolutely right. He was one of the first ones to just immediately state, yeah, this is something that we want to do. And what I genuinely appreciate with Big D Construction is that they have allowed us to not only engage with their employees, engage with their people who they value very, very highly, but they've also allowed us to use their very, very impressive and very important platform within the community to be able to help amplify the message. And so when Corey says that he's put these on his trucks and he's put it at the construction sites, that may sound like, well, yeah, that seems like an easy thing to do. Nevertheless, it's a significant thing to do when you consider that Big D Construction is working on, I don't know how many projects, but they're all over the state. And it gives us an opportunity to be able to connect with those passerbys and those individuals who will be in contact with those particular sites, and be able to understand that Big D Construction, that for them, this is an important concept. This is an important concept.
Yeah, no question about that. And Corey, as you started to embrace this and to roll this out, I think a lot of people have this image of hard hats and tough employees doing tough work out there. What's been the reaction first from the employees to say, hey, we're actually going to be about kindness as part of our culture here at Big D? What's the response been?
It's been really well received. We did this in partnership with some of our mental health and awareness that we have been promoting in the company for years. And it's funny when you have these meetings. We had a superintendent meeting not too long ago. We were talking about One Kind Act a Day, and we were talking about, life's bigger than your job. Everyone's human, and everyone has who they are and their job. And we were talking about it being okay to, have mental health issues, but to also, and to show kindness, because we don't know what's going on in everyone's life, right? We don't know exactly what is happening in the world. And we had some of those big, gruff, strong construction guys crying in front of each other in a positive way, just happy that there's an organization like One Kind Act a Day that really cares about people and about kindness more than about the job or the issues of the day. And so and we have people talking about it. It's become something that people are talking about in the hallways and trying to continue to show each other kindness, and then we try to highlight that throughout the company. It's been great.
Yeah, well, I love that, and I'm one of those who firmly believes in the idea that crying together in public, gathering like that, may actually solve all the world's problems in the end. But I think they do begin with a little bit of kindness there. And Curtis, give us a little update in terms of what is happening, of course, with Khosrow Simnani and the Simnani Foundation and their great support for One Kind Act a Day. Give us a sense of what else is happening as companies like Big D say, hey, you know what, this is not just a nice thing to talk about. This is an actual important thing for us to become about and do together.
So, Big D Construction is a great example of this, but there are other organizations out there that also believe that corporate America has the opportunity, and I believe one of the things that even Corey told me himself directly was we have the responsibility to help to amplify, advocate, and exemplify this whole concept of kindness. I'll go back to Big D as an example. I mean, Corey is talking about these big, gruff, tough guys. Construction, for all intents and purposes, is a hard business. And Corey wanted to be able to inculcate the whole idea of kindness within his people, but he also wanted it to ripple out to his clients, obviously, but also to their vendors. And the whole idea of even that thought of being able to have a kinder revolution with vendors is significant. It takes a lot of courage. And so we have a lot of businesses right now that are starting to see the value of kindness. And not only do they see it from the standpoint of it improving their culture and their engagement with their employees, but statistics show and science shows and research shows that the kinder organizations have an impact on their bottom line. It has a positive impact on the bottom line. So yes, it's the right thing to do, but it's also the most successful thing to do.
Yeah, great perspective as always. Corey Moore, Chief Executive Officer, Big D Companies, a company that is making things happen with One Kind Act a Day, and then of course Curtis Bennett, Executive Director of One Kind Act a Day. And grateful to both of you for joining us today. Great perspective, and this is what we talk about every day on this show. Go out and do something that makes a difference. This is what leadership looks like, folks. This is what making a difference acts like. And grateful to both of you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
All right. A great perspective there from Big D Construction and One Kind Act a Day. They're out there doing it. It's not that hard. One Kind Act a Day. Just think of that. If we all did one thing once a day, just one thing, the world would never be the same. We'll step aside for one last break. More Inside Sources coming up next.
Hey, do you feel like you need a nap after your nap?
Well, lugging around extra weight isn't just exhausting, it's also putting your health at risk. Here's a way to reduce your risk of obesity-related illnesses. SOTA Weight Loss, SOTA. No injections, no hunger, just amazing results that last. John Smith, you get up early just like I do.
I do, man. I get up at like 3:30 a.m.
And by that, I mean 4:30. But yeah, before I started Soda weight loss about 6 weeks ago, I was dragging by the afternoon. But I've lost 30 pounds in 6 weeks.
And I let go of 70 pounds in 5 months. You get fast results. And the best part, John, is doing it without injections, pills, medications, or crazy exercising.
Yeah, no surgery, no side effects. It's just better food at better times of the day.
People will notice how you look different. And we've got the proof at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Go there, click request a nutritionist callback, and within moments you can start the same journey that John and I have found great success on, because soda is, say it with me, John, state of the art.
Join KSL Saturday from 11 to 1 at the Hot Tub Factory Outlet in Draper. It's next to Cowabunga Bay. And again, there'll be all kinds of fun, all kinds of great savings at the Hot Tub Factory Outlet in Draper next to Cowabunga Bay, Saturday from 11 to 1.
This is the story of a very special woman. Just a few knew about her superpowers. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
This is the story of the one. As a facility technician installing a new welding station, he knows getting the ventilation right is critical for safety. That's why when questions arise, there's Grainger. Grainger offers detailed technical product information online at his fingertips, so it's easy to find what he needs. Because when it comes to safety, having answers means he and his people can breathe a little easier. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You do countless things without a second thought to protect your family and home. Every time you're in the car, you buckle your seatbelt. Before the next load of laundry, you remove the dryer lint. When you head out, you always lock your doors. And one simple task, done far less often, can protect your family and home this winter. Schedule a furnace inspection by a certified heating contractor to check for safety and efficiency. A friendly reminder from Enbridge Gas.
Beatty, Nevada, your getaway to Death Valley, an entryway to a true desert adventure. Enjoy exciting offerings for all your senses and imagination. In Beatty, visit Eddie World, the largest candy store in Nevada, and visit their historic museum, the ghost town of Rhyolite, and see sculptures in the desert at Goldwell. Hiking, biking, and hundreds of miles of ATV trails await you. For the ultimate adventure, make Beatty, Nevada your next destination and claim a free gift at BeattyNevada.org. Wrangle up some fun at Beatty Days 2024, Friday, October 25th through Sunday, October 27th. It's old-fashioned family fun with a chili cook-off, live music, bed races, a classic car show, cornhole and horseshoe tournaments, model railroads, a parade, food and craft vendors, contests for everyone, and lots more. The fun is in Beatty, Nevada this October 25th through the 27th. Visit BeattyNevada.org for the full schedule. That's BeattyNevada.org.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
If it's a door-to-door salesman, buyer beware. Hi, this is Jason.
And Kathy of Window World.
Answer that door and prepare for some serious baloney.
You know, overpriced, but on sale today.
Big special.
Manager's discount.
Model home in the neighborhood.
Remember, the sale ends today.
Hey, it's all baloney.
Window World's different.
Check windowworldutah.com.
Or call 801-281-8111.
Window World. Simply the best for less.
And as Doug always said,
that's no baloney. Life can feel hard or overwhelming sometimes, but you don't have to face things alone. Getting help for yourself or someone you're worried about starts with a call or text to 988, where you always have someone to talk to, someone to help you, and somewhere safe to go. 988 Utah is here for anyone experiencing mental health challenges or emotional distress. 988 Utah can even help you navigate how to support your struggling loved ones. Whether you're struggling with anxiety, depression, or suicidal thoughts, trained professionals are ready to listen and provide free, confidential support 24/7. Utah, don't hesitate to call or text 988 for you or someone you care about. The caring staff at 988 Utah can connect you to the right resources. Learn more at 988.utah.gov.
At Macy's, we're proud to be local and support local.
Carrying local products and produce is important to us. We are proud to support our local growers and bring peak freshness to you and your family. To make shopping local easier for you, we have added Utah Proud tags beneath local products. As you shop our stores, look out for the tags as you shop and show your pride for local Utah companies and growers. Thank you for shopping local yourself by shopping at Macy's. Macy's, happy shopping!
Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness.
Tim and Amanda.
One of the big differences, I think, between reading a story online and hearing it from us, Tim, is that, you and I are allowed to share a reaction. We need to be able to say, what in the world were they thinking? So that people listening will know. We feel it too. When we read a story that sounds ridiculous, we're right with you. It sounds ridiculous.
Well, we get caught up, I'm sure just like our listeners do sometimes, in death scrolling on social media. And fact-checking it on your own is tough. The great thing about tuning in every morning and starting your morning with us on KSL is you can count on the fact that when that information comes out of the radio in your direction, it comes from reliable sources.
It's already been fact-checked.
Right. And that's not always easy when you're getting it online. Finding who wrote it, when was it written, has it been updated with the current facts of the day that change sometimes minute to minute, not just day to day.
Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Britt Johnson. First, Layton police are looking for a van involved in a deadly hit-and-run accident last night involving a pedestrian in Layton. Second, as it stands now, UDOT is planning to purchase and destroy 4 homes to widen I-15 from Farmington to Salt Lake, but there are another 25 homes that could also end up on the chopping block. Third, about 100 U.S. troops are being deployed to Israel as part of an advanced anti-missile defense system. Right now, it's 55 degrees and cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today, as it always is. I am Boyd Matheson. As we round out the program today, I want to dig into a couple of things that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. taught that I think have application. If you missed the last segment, we talked to Corey Moore from Big D Construction, Curtis Bennett, of course, from One Kind Act Today, and just talking about what a difference it can make, the meaning that it brings to our lives, and the success that always comes in its wake. So Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. declared that if a person has not discovered something that they're willing to die for, they aren't fit to live. And what he was really saying was, look, if you haven't found that passion, that vision, that mission, which really becomes the pursuit of a lifetime, you're not going to experience great success, and you're not going to experience the joy and the peace and the satisfaction that comes from doing that as well. That having something that you're willing to just throw your whole self into that makes a difference, that leaves a legacy, you're going to have a lot of unfulfilled days, a lot of regrets and what ifs, and a lot of wondering of, did it matter? Did I give my time and attention to things that made a difference? Or was I just getting a paycheck? Or was I just going through the motions? Was I just trying to do what was popular or what was expected? It doesn't really matter what role you play. We always talk about it in the context of any point on the compass. Can you lead from any point on the compass? Play the role well. If you're at the front and you have the microphone in your hand, play that role. If you're in the back, play that role. If you're on the side and one of the other points of the compass for a season of your life, whether that's in your profession, in your family, in your community, play it. Go big from any point on the compass. Dr. King also said that all labor uplifts humanity, has dignity and importance, and should be undertaken with painstaking excellence. I love that phrase. So whatever it is that you are doing that's uplifting humanity, that it has dignity and importance, go at it, and go at it with excellence. In other words, there's no small parts or players, and we all can do and should do whatever we do with excellence. And I really believe that we live in a season of the world where we need new dreamers, new visionaries, new heroes. And it doesn't matter if your work or effort is published in the local media or up on a website or printed in a magazine. What matters is that you're willing to stand up, speak out, stand alone if you need to. Dr. King said almost always, the creative, dedicated minority has made the world better. The creative, dedicated minority has made the world better. It's that noble few who are willing to just go out and make a difference because they can go out and make a difference. And it's true, individual success is a great thing. But true success comes when we transcend our personal goals and focus on making the greater difference, the greater good, for the greater number of people, for the greater good of society. As I said, your life may not be recorded in the history books or may not be on cable news, but most likely, if you've done it right, it'll be etched on the hearts and minds of people that you interact with every day. And some of them you may not even know. You may just brush past them or have an interaction with them, but it might be the interaction that makes all the difference for them. And so the question is what is it going to say about you? Will you be remembered as someone who had a dream and worked to fulfill it? Will you leave a legacy of excellence in all the things that you undertook and did? Will someone have a better, brighter future because they interacted with you? And again, doesn't mean you have to be the boss, doesn't mean you have to be in a big organization, doesn't mean you have to be rich and famous. It just means you have to act, and you have to engage, and you have to show up. Because all the reformers, the visionaries, the change agents, the transformational individuals, both in the past and the present, are those that can declare the truth and then go out and live by it. And so as we look at where we are, coming full circle to our One Kind Act a Day moment today, we all have an opportunity. You've heard me many times on this show refer to Winston Churchill and his tap on the shoulder moment. That every day we all have these moments when we're figuratively tapped on the shoulder and given the opportunity to do something special, unique to us and fitted to our talent. We all get those every single day, multiple times a day. As we talked about earlier in the show, when we were talking to Alyssa Strauss about caregiving and the philosophy of caregiving, whether it's as a parent or whether it's giving care to your parents, there's an opportunity there that matters. It brings meaning, and it can make all the difference. But you have to be willing to lean into that and to then play big. Any point on the compass. I always say it's easy to lead from the front. You give somebody a big fancy title, stick them in a corner office, that's easy peasy stuff. You want a real leader? Show me somebody who can lead from any point on the compass, whether they have a title or not, whether you hand them the microphone or not, whether they have a group to lead or they're a member of the group that's being led. The people who can lead from any point on that compass are the real difference makers. They're the ones who are going to leave the legacy that actually matters. And along the way, they're actually going to have more success. They're going to have more happiness. And they're going to have bigger influence because they can lead from any point on the compass. And so I think Dr. King got it right. What are we willing to live for? What are we willing to go after? Recognizing that all labor, every act we do uplifts humanity, has dignity, importance, and we should go after it with excellence. I'm Boyd Matheson. Thanks for joining us on Inside Sources today here on KSL News Radio. Great to be with you as always. And as you go out into the world, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. It's 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Chaleos, and today for Jeff Kaplan, it's mostly cloudy in downtown Salt Lake City and 55 degrees. KSL's top story. UDOT is making some tough decisions on how many homes and businesses need to go so the department can go through with plans to widen I-15. KSL News Radio's Adam Small reports this would be from Farmington to Salt Lake City.
It sucks, to be super frank.
As it currently stands, UDOT is planning to purchase and destroy 4 homes, but there are another 25 homes that could end up on the chopping block as well. However, after hearing strong public input, UDOT spokesperson Mitch Shaw tells me none of those homes are in Salt Lake City.
When we're building a project, we do everything we can to avoid property acquisitions.
Shaw says, though, they are planning to purchase and bulldoze 12 commercial properties and another 9 could possibly join them, though the final decisions will take time as design plans are made. Construction isn't expected to start until at least 2027. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
Anyone planning on driving late tonight or early tomorrow morning should be prepared for some wet roads as the storm moves through the state.
If you're a morning commuter and you've got to get through maybe Sardine Summit, Logan Canyon, Weber Canyon, Parley's, or Spanish Fork Canyon, you'll probably be running into some kind of snow.
KSL meteorologist Matt Johnson says most of the snow will fall overnight, but it's not just the northern canyons that will be hit. A second storm front will move through central and southern Utah. Matt says the I-15 corridor from Cedar City to Cove Fort could be dicey. The rain kept Utah Highway Patrol troopers busy this morning. By noon, troopers had already responded to 62 crashes across the state. A confrontation between 2 drivers turned violent yesterday afternoon in Salt Lake City, ending with a bullet hole in a windshield and 1 man in custody. KSL News Radio's Eric Cabrera reports.
Very scary situation.
Maria, that's how Salt Lake City Police spokesperson Brent Weisberg described a fight between 2 drivers unfolded yesterday afternoon. Police say it started as both drivers were heading south from Davis County when an unnamed 32-year-old driver cut off 57-year-old Peter Lyons. He allegedly followed him and rammed his car into his and unloaded 1 shot from his handgun through his windshield. Salt Lake City Airport officers found them near 340 North and 2370 West.
Ultimately, we have arrested the 57-year-old man on a single charge of aggravated assault constituting road rage.
The 32-year-old was not hit or injured in the fight. Reporting live, Eric Cabrera, KSL News Radio.
Salt Lake City police are warning about car break-ins and burglaries near haunted houses this spooky season. In a press release, the department says that this year burglaries of cars are actually down compared to last year, but there's been a sharp uptick in the area near 8th South and 6th West, right near Salt Lake Fear Factory. SLCPD says that they have 20 reported burglaries there since the 1st of September. Our top national story. Pentagon officials are optimistic the death of a top Hamas leader could lead to new peace talks. Major General Pat Ryder says U.S. support for Israeli defense and Yahya Sinwar's death provide an opportunity to reach a peace deal for the war in Gaza.
This is clearly a significant development and a major counterterrorism achievement.
President Biden releasing a statement on Sinwar's death while en route to Germany. ABC News White House correspondent Karen Travers has his reaction.
President Biden said in a statement, the death of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar is a good day for Israel, the U.S., and the world. He said for Israelis, this brings relief, comparing it to the feeling among Americans after the raid that killed Osama bin Laden in 2011. President Biden said Sinwar's death gives the opportunity for a, quote, day after in Gaza without Hamas in power, saying Sinwar was a, quote, insurmountable obstacle to achieving a political settlement between the Israelis and Palestinians. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
Host of Inside Sources Boyd Matheson tells David Dujanovic this could lead to further ceasefire negotiations in the Middle East.
The United States have said, look, getting him off the playing field will advance negotiations. He's really been the one who said, no, we're not negotiating on anything relating to hostages or ceasefire. And so it will be very interesting to see the dynamic shift there in that part of the region.
Negotiations have been at a standstill for almost a month. Meantime, the U.S. conducted some new airstrikes in the Middle East today, targeting Houthi rebels in Yemen. The Houthis are backed by Iran. Pentagon says 2 stealth bombers hit 5 sites where the Houthis were storing weapons used to attack foreign ships in the Red Sea, which they have been conducting as retaliation for the Israel-Hamas war. The FAA is investigating after an incident at the airport in San Diego last week.
In another mistake made involving a U.S. runway, Southwest Flight 1478 was cleared to take off from San Diego seconds after another Southwest plane was cleared to cross that same runway. The air traffic controller told Flight 1478 to abort its takeoff.
Cancel takeoff plans for South at 1478.
South 1478 is rejected.
The plane that was cleared to cross the runway never actually crossed and instead stayed in place. Flight 1478 stopped its takeoff roll. Nobody was injured. Alex Stone, EBC News.
KSL News Time, 3:05. First look traffic. Good afternoon, Michelle.
Good afternoon, Maria. We're already seeing a busy drive this afternoon. Slow and go traffic southbound I-15 from the Spaghetti Bowl headed down to about 7200 South in Murray. And then also just a heads up, if you're headed up Parley's Canyon approaching the summit, we do have a crash that is off to the right with multiple vehicles. Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
Coming up on Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, Jeff is talking about the tallest teenager on earth and, yes, his basketball career. Jeff Kaplan's Minute of News is next.
Want to avoid getting sick this fall? Getting your immunizations is a classic approach. You can protect yourself against the flu, RSV, pneumonia, and COVID. Does that sound like music to your ears? Then talk to a doctor or healthcare provider. And visit uptodate.utah.gov to learn more.
Healthcare with human kindness is here. It's at Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Together, we have a common purpose, partnering with you in health and healing using powerful medicine, powerful technology, and the greatest power of all, human kindness. You'll know it when you see it, because human kindness is in every care site and in every caregiver. Common Spirit Health. Hello, human kindness.
Do you know how to tell if a clogged drain is something to worry about or not? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I understand it's annoying and inconvenient, but sometimes a clogged drain can be a sign there's a more serious issue with your sewer main line. If the drains in the lowest level of your home aren't draining, or you flush a toilet and it comes up somewhere else like a shower or a floor drain, I'm urging you to look at this as more than just an annoyance. The last thing I want you to experience is a sewer backup. If you're a homeowner experiencing any of these issues, the first step would be to snake the line to see if it's just a blockage, which one of our drain techs can do for only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Snowmobiles, winter activity, and more at the Utah Snowmobile Show October 18th and 19th at Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy.
This is My Minute of News, brought to you by Any Hour Services, electrical, plumbing, heating, and air, anyhourservices.com. You've probably never heard of him, but I'm guessing you will this winter. The boy's name is Olivier Roux. Olivier Roux is a French-Canadian from Montreal. He just turned 18 years old. He's about to start college, and he's the tallest teenager on Earth.
Do you think of it as a blessing or a curse or both?
Blessing. You can use it for being famous. You can use it for basketball. You can use it for highest shelf in the kitchen or whatever.
Olivier Roux has the right attitude, especially considering that he's nearly 8 feet tall and still growing. Sure, people gawk at him.
It's nice, but like, it's nature and it's whatever, but like sometimes it's too much.
Doctors tell his family they can't find anything wrong. His height is just the result of tall parents. The two questions Olivier gets asked most: how tall are you? 7'9", at least for now. The other question: do you play basketball? Absolutely.
Look at Olivier. Go up, big man.
Look at him.
Go up, big man. Go up, big man, and put it down, big man. That's what you want to see.
He doesn't even have to jump to dunk. The kid does it on his tippy toes. For now, because he's still growing. And he's now all moved in at college, where Olivier will play this season for the Florida Gators. He still looks a little awkward, but what a playbook they're going to have at the University of Florida. Throw it to the big guy, and he'll hand the ball to the basket. That's what you can do with a gentle giant so tall he can call 7'4" Rudy Gobert punk.
Jeff Kaplan's Minute of News, only on KSL News Radio.
Together, Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s. It's brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. An update now with Michelle Rowe.
Thanks, Maria. We do have wet roads out there, so you're going to want to reduce speeds and allow plenty of braking room as people are headed out of town. Seeing some slow-and-go traffic, which can be the most dangerous in wet roads. This is going from South Salt Lake down to about 7200 south in Midvale. We do have a crash off to the left in the mix. That is in the Midvale area. For drivers making their way northbound, headed toward town, looking at a little bit of slowing in the South Salt Lake area, headed toward downtown. On the 201 freeway, headed westbound, that's slow between I-15 and Bangerter Highway. And then again, heads up, this is eastbound Parley's Canyon. Have a crash on the right as you're approaching the summit. Steve?
Right now, delays on eastbound I-215's south belt right now past the Murray Golf Course over to I-15. Leaving downtown, got some wet roads leaving the city up through Davis, Weber, and Box Elder counties on both directions of I-15 all the way up to Willard Bay. Southbound 89, good to go. Same for Legacy, and the 215 West Belt looking good at this point. Get started on your dream kitchen or bath countertops with special financing for Bedrock Quartz for up to 18 months. Visit bedrockquartz.com for details. That's bedrockquartz.com. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
Fall makes a big return today. We've got showers in the morning, a break in the afternoon, then more rain expected late tonight. Look for daytime highs in the low 60s. Overnight, I've got temperatures dropping off to 30s, upper 30s for the Wasatch Front, and rain likely. For tomorrow, we've got AM showers and then snow in the mountaintops. Temperatures only reaching 50 degrees. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Matt Johnson.
Mostly cloudy skies, 55 degrees in downtown Salt Lake City. Still to come on Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News. A new report out on the Secret Service recommending a complete overhaul of leadership. We're going to go in depth on that subject coming up, streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com and the KSL News Radio app. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
We all want to be healthy, and the goal, Tim, I think, is less medicine. Not more medicine.
Oh, for sure.
So when it comes to losing weight, if you have to add to the injections and pills that you're already taking in order to do, that's not the goal. The goal is to get so healthy that you don't need the medicine, like what Vicky experienced.
I went from a 16, 18 down to a size 4 now. So that is amazing. It makes you feel so good. I mean, I literally was on over 40 to 50 pills a day, heart medicine, everything. I'm off of everything.
And I'm down 2 to 3 medications, just one of the unexpected benefits.
Yeah, how many times we talked about that it's so much more than just the numbers on the scale. It's going to change your life. And by the way, speaking of pills, there's no pills, no injections. You're still going to lose the weight you want. You're going to lose it quickly because they make a difference in how you look at food. Find out by going to SOTAweightLoss.com. It is spelled SOTA, and it stands for state of the
art.
Every day, Cintas service reps help businesses get ready for the workday. They provide freshly laundered workwear delivered every week. Mats, mops, restroom and cleaning supplies. First aid and safety products to help your employees stay safe. They even test and inspect fire extinguishers and emergency lights. Cintas helps keep your business running smoothly. See what Cintas can do for you. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
My name is Brian King, and I'm running to be your governor because Utah is headed in the wrong direction, and we can do so much better. If you're frustrated by politics today, if you feel like politicians aren't listening to you, if you're looking for something different, for a leader who prioritizes common sense and bipartisanship, you have a place with us in this campaign. Join us and vote for Brian King for governor by November 5th. For the better.
Paid for by Brian for Utah.
KSL News Time, 3:15. The three things you need to know this hour first.
UDOT is now trying to figure out how many homes they can save when they widen I-15 from Farmington to Salt Lake City. As of right now, 4 homes are on the chopping block, but a couple dozen more could join them. I'm KSL News Radio's Adam Small.
Second, a second cold front is on the way. Rain will mix with snowflakes tomorrow morning. It could mean a messy commute. Third, traffic and weather together, Michelle.
Looking at slow and go traffic, Maria, southbound I-15 between 33rd South and 7200 South. Michelle Rowan, the KSL Traffic Center.
Wet weather returns today and cold temperatures in store. I'm Matt Johnson.
55 degrees at the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Time now for KSL's top national stories.
From ABC News, I'm Mike Dubusky. In Tel Aviv, crowds have gathered outside the headquarters of the Israeli Defense Forces following the death of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar at the hands of Israel's military. Sinwar masterminded last year's October 7th attacks in Israel, which killed 1,200 people, including 2 family members of Israeli man Zahiro Moore.
The situation is over there in Gaza is chaotic, to say the least. Now it just became even more chaotic.
Moore also said he fears for the safety of the remaining hostages held by Hamas, but White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says Sinwar's death opens up a chance to free Israeli hostages.
We see an opportunity now that we want to seize to try to secure the release of the hostages, and we're going to work at that.
Sullivan is traveling with President Biden in Germany, where the president will meet with European leaders to discuss conflicts in the Middle East and in Ukraine. In what's called Operation Giant Slalom, authorities from the U.S. and Canada say they've dismantled a drug trafficking operation run by a one-time Olympic athlete, ABC's Alex Stone.
Ryan Wedding was once a snowboarder who competed in the Olympics for Canada. Now he's accused of running a drug trafficking organization that's been moving 60 tons of cocaine a year from Colombia into the U.S. and Canada. U.S. Attorney Martina Estrada says Wedding and his underlings
made a lot of money through this cocaine trafficking, billions of dollars.
Wedding is on the run. Others have been arrested. They're also accused of ordering execution-style murders of anyone they thought was blocking their drug shipments. Alex Stone, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are both out on the campaign trail today, with the vice president in Washington and the former president in New York. Voters are already casting their ballots in 47 states where early voting has gone into effect. You're listening to ABC News.
Time now for the KSL In-Depth. The new report on the Secret Service recommends a complete overhaul of leadership following the failures made during July's assassination attempt of former President Trump. Joining me live is retired Secret Service agent ABC's Don Mahalik. Thanks for being with me today.
Thanks for having me.
So what are the big takeaways from this report?
The big takeaways the panel hit on were leadership, culture, communications, training, and embracement of technologies. Those are the broad themes that the panel touched on and said that the Secret Service needed to be more proactive, more robust, and look at ways to develop these areas in the future. The one area that they didn't talk about, which I was surprised about, is the attrition rate that the Secret Service is facing and other law enforcement agencies are facing around the country, because the Secret Service is a much leaner and smaller agency than it was when I was working there.
Yeah, Don, how much of these problems could be caused by the shortage of personnel?
Well, I go back to September 12th, 2001, where literally overnight the Secret Service's protection mandate doubled. But at the same time, its protection mandate doubled, but the number of personnel and its funding did not double. As a matter of fact, there were a couple times during government sequestration that the Secret Service received flat funding. And, not being able to recruit, retain expertise and experienced individuals and hire high qualified individuals and keep them, over time, it's going to come out in some fashion, and I see that occurring now. And I think part of it is not the Secret Service's fault. I think it's the problem of the current job market, where you have jobs out there where Secret Service personnel, people that come to the Secret Service, can leave, take their skills, and be hired in a setting where they can work from home, where they can, work whatever hours they want, versus having to get on a plane, fly to God knows where, work 12, 14-hour shifts, and then, as a friend of mine is right now, be on the road for 4 months straight.
So then I'm wondering, how would an overhaul of leadership really fix that problem, and what would that even look like?
Yeah, well, back in 2014, they had a Protect the Mission panel report that was also authored by DHS. And one of the things it called for, that this panel is calling for, is to have outside individuals come into leadership position in the Secret Service. In 2014, they did some of that. And right now, the COO, the CFO, and a couple of other high-ranking individuals are civilians, which goes to the question of how much more do you want to civilianize the leadership in the Secret Service. But the bottom line is the Secret Service, DHS, the administration, and Congress need to get together and look at right-sizing the agency the same way the FBI, post 9/11, was able to hire thousands of FBI agents and millions of dollars dumped into their counterterrorism efforts to handle the new counterterrorism mission they were facing. Secret Service has never had that opportunity, and I think now is the opportunity to do that.
Don, appreciate your time. Thanks for being with me.
Thanks for having me.
Live on the KSL Newsline, that is retired Secret Service agent ABC's Don Mihalik. Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Michelle Rowe.
Slow and go traffic southbound I-15 starting at the Spaghetti Bowl, headed down into the Midvale area. The worst of it is you're right as you're going through the south interchange. Now for drivers making their way eastbound, I-80 in Parley's Canyon, we do have a crash that's off to the right. It's right near the Lambs Canyon exit as you're approaching the summit. Steve?
Look, there's some slowdowns right now on eastbound 215 South Belt past the Murray Golf Course heading east to the I-15 ramps. Still a damn drive-in spots on northbound I-15. Some delays between the Spaghetti Bowl at 21st South and the ballpark exit at 13th into downtown. After that, good speeds on I-15 both ways between downtown and Brigham City. UDOT construction alert. Plan ahead as southbound I-215 in West Valley is down to one lane each night through Saturday, followed by a full closure of the freeway on Sunday night for bridge repairs. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL 7-8 forecast. Fall is here. Look for a high of only 61 degrees today with scattered showers, then really developing into some more significant rain overnight. 50 for your Friday, AM rain, snow showers, and it'll become breezy by afternoon. Partly cloudy, 58 on your Saturday. Dry skies, mostly sunny, 60 on Sunday. Monday's sunny skies, 68. We rebound nicely. Tuesday, 71, 70 on Wednesday. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Matt Johnson.
And it's mostly cloudy, 55 degrees in downtown Salt Lake City. The 7-day forecast is brought to you by Performance Automotive Bountiful.
Following 2-1 buy down is at 6.7 APR and 5.89 APR 30-year and MLS 245422. Good news, mortgage rates are finally coming down. American Home Loans is offering 30-year loans at only 5.75%. Yes, 5.75%. Fixed rate. You can buy a home or refinance at only 5.75% fixed. Call American Home Loans at 801-262-2221. That's 801-262-2221. Now, they also have a 2-1 buy-down program that starts at a 4.5% rate. Yes, only 4.5% rate on a buy-down purchase loan with this program. As rates go down, you can refinance at absolutely no cost to you. American Home Loans has been around for 31 years. They have no origination fees, no points, and the best rates. For a fixed rate mortgage at only 5.75%, call 801-262-2221. That's 801-262-2221, or go to AmericanHomeLoans.com.
Protect your little ones while transforming your home. The Blind Man's Go Cordless for Kids sale is on now. Buy 4, get 1 free on all child-safe window coverings, including the popular motorized options. Imagine beautiful cordless blinds and shades that elevate your decor without compromising safety. Their diverse collection of colors, fabrics, and cordless solutions ensures there's a perfect match for every style. Experience personalized service as the Blind Man's consultants guide you in selecting the ideal options for your home. Don't wait. This is your chance to create a safer, more stylish home with the Blind Man's Buy 4, Get 1 free savings event on all child-safe window coverings and motorization. Hurry, the sale ends October 31st. Visit theblindman.com today to set up a free in-home consultation. Theblindman.com.
From Ogden to St. George, Utah's premier window covering provider, The Blind Man.
KSL News Time 325. We are watching Utah's money. Netflix earnings just barely beat third quarter estimates. Company saw a 35% jump in ad tier subscribers with an additional 5 million users in total. Netflix stocks jumped on the news, up 24% in after-hour trading. Instagram is taking steps to protect teenagers from sextortion scams as concerns grow on that platform. Now, the features include blocking screenshots or screen recordings of disappearing messages and notifying teens when they are talking with someone who may be outside of the country. Lace up your Vans and get hydrated. Vans Warped Tour is returning in 2025. The iconic festival is coming back with only a few stops from Washington, D.C. to California and finally ending in Orlando, Florida. The lineup has not yet been announced, so you have time to grow out your emo side bangs. On Wall Street, the Dow closed at a record high thanks to positive retail data. The Dow was up 161 points, closing at 43,239. S&P was down by a point, and the Nasdaq was up by 6 points.
The Management Minute is a service of the MBA program in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University. I'm Professor Scott Hammond. I was riding the squeaking, moving sidewalk at the airport while the airlines were making announcements. A couple was having a loud conversation next to me, and the mayor was doing her Welcome to Salt Lake promo. Somewhere, someone was playing elevator music. Most of the passengers, as I did, had noise-canceling earphones to block the overdose of audible messages, reduce our stress, and retain our sanity. Not unlike today's workplace, too many important messages stacked on each other makes noise. They say silence is golden, but research shows it also leads to less stress and greater productivity. Good leaders create noise-free work environments where people can digest information and then move on. Learn more about how leaders create optimal work environments in an MBA program at Utah State University. Go to utahstatemba.com. That's utahstatemba.com. I'm Scott Hammond. Hope to see you in one of our classes.
The movie show is at Minky Couture in Layton this Friday from 10 to 1. Check out all the ways to stay cozy and warm during these cold months. minkycouture.com.
Attention Utah professionals. Join us at the Utah Business Forward event on November 20th, 2024 at the Grand America Hotel. Learn from successful Utah leaders, including Kurt Doman of Progressive Leasing and U of U women's basketball coach Lynn Roberts. Dive into breakout sessions on entrepreneurship, people and culture, acquisitions, AI, brand marketing, and strategic leadership. Don't miss this opportunity to connect and grow. Visit forward.utahbusiness.com to register today.
Need to replace your Social Security card? In most states, you can request one online with a My Social Security account. A My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can also get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
How far can this Cougar team go?
Retzloff takes the snap, gives LJ into the end zone!
Is the table set for a college playoff berth?
I love the energy and the effort. These guys have it and they believe in what they're doing, and man, it's working.
First, we need to protect Lavelle's house Friday night. It's BYU, Oklahoma State. Here's special extended pregame coverage driving home Friday at 5:30 on Utah's legacy home of the Cougars, KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather